This time my AEM shirt's appropriate because today I'm installing an X-Series Boost Gauge in the MR2. Before I start this video off, I just want to make sure that I let everybody know this is not a DIY video. I'm just showing you an update. I have currently an AEM Tru Boost in there along with an AEM Wideband Gauge. And my Tru Boost, which is also pretty new, stopped working. It also stopped working when we decided to use the max solenoid. Don't worry about this wiring nest right now. I'm cleaning this all up. It was all a temporary setup. The boost solenoid is actually being controlled by the link, which is another wiring mess that I'm going to be cleaning up today as well. Besides that not working and not knowing exactly what boost I'm hitting, it makes for a good project to finally install this new gauge. Right now I've got the battery on a tender since I do have some kind of parasitic draw that I've had for years, and I will eventually figure it out. I've just been a bit lazy about it. And I do have to figure out how to wire the boost solenoid, or where to wire the boost solenoid, because it was wired directly to this fuse box's main power, so it was running hot all the time, which isn't good, and it was draining the battery overnight. So I think I'm going to use the same, since that only pulls like 0.07 amps or something ridiculously low. I'm going to use the same ignition source that these gauges are running. So that means I've got to run a wire all the way back down through here and up there. But I got to do that anyway for this new boost gauge. All right, let's see what's in the box. Gauge, wiring harness, silly straw, instructions, hair clips, sensor and nipple, and sticker for more horsepower. This wiring harness is not very long. That's a problem. Engine's in the back. Electronics are on the front. And that's where my gauge is going to go. So I guess I'm going to have to put this sensor somewhere inside, which I was hoping to avoid because I want to run as little vacuum hose as possible, or crazy straw, whatever you want to call it. But for this project, according to the schematic here, I'm only going to be using the red switched 12 volt and the black ground, and these two that go to this connector here already. Obviously it's just power, ground, and the sensor wire here, which I guess is just like a 0 to 5 volt. Don't quote me on that. The other two wires coming off of this, the white and the brown wire here, I will not be using because I don't need that. I'm not monitoring on any other channel because I've already got that integrated from the solenoid into the Link G4X. So now it's time to go ahead and pull out the old sensor and all that other, or the old gauge and things and fun stuff that came with. It means I'm probably gonna have to remove my intake because all the wiring and fun stuff happens to live right below it underneath there. Then it comes on through. Gotta take the subwoofer out, move the seat forward a bit, unclip all this stuff. Broke that, need a new one. And take off this poorly mounted gauge pod, which means the T-top's got to come off as well. And just like that, most of the stuff is out of the way. And you can see through the firewall here, if there's enough light, that's where I got all my wires coming through for things that I have hooked up here and somewhere else, I don't know where. But there we go, there's a Tru Boost. Broken A button, not exactly sure why. So I'm going to unplug this harness here from it, and then I'm going to remove that, take the gauge pod out as much as I can, and start wiring in the new stuff. So I've got the boost gauge wiring going behind the radio. Forget why I did that. So radio's coming out too. Old sensor harness and all that fun stuff for gauge harness is out. New one's about ready to go on, but before we do, I've got to throw some Teflon on here, because anytime you've got an MPT fitting, it'll either need to be O-ring sealed, liquid Teflon seal, or Teflon tape. Most people don't recommend Teflon tape in automotive settings for anything that could possibly get ingested into the engine. Teflon is really high temperature material, so it could survive in there and might cause damage, but I'm going to do it anyway. I used an adjustable AN fitting wrench on this, and then a 1/2 inch standard wrench on this, tightened them together after applying some nice Teflon tape and making sure it was out of the way of the sensor so it doesn't get sucked in, blown out, whatever you want to call it. Sensor, because this harness is so short, will actually be living in the cab somewhere along with me. And then we're going to figure out just how long of a boost hose or vacuum hose that we need inside the cab. There's already one from the previous sensor, so we're going to probably use that and see where exactly this is going to end up going. Excuse the mess in the car. So the sensor's over, and this hose that was coming into the car was very similar to the one that was supplied, which is, won't focus, but this is a really tiny diameter, and This NPT fitting is not. So I ended up using a little bit of silicone spray, which is safe for silicone hoses, believe it or not. And I was able to insert it into that small hole. So now this sensor and this harness is going to live somewhere in the speaker box down here, where it's safe from, you know, being punctured or hit, safe from vibration and heat. So it'll be able to live quite a long life pretty comfortably down there. Pass it down there, and I'll move this carpet later and secure it in place. So now I'm just going to run the rest of the wire under the carpet here, along with the other wires I've got ran already. Wire this up somewhere behind the spaghetti and the radio to switched ground, and switched 12 volt, which comes off the radio fuse in here, and I've got a good ground in there as well. All right, the gauge is hooked up. I switched the faceplate over to PSI. My AFR is working, and car is running. We're gonna go take a quick test drive and see how it goes. All right, so I went for a little test drive. The gauge was working as expected. Everything seemed pretty good to go on that. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with a friend if it might be helpful for them. And remember to subscribe. And as always, keep it foul.